If Dak Prescott becomes a free agent and doesn't re-sign with the Dallas Cowboys in 2021, should the Chicago Bears and whoever their new GM presumably would be throw the kitchen sink at Dak to bring him to Chicago? Today, in episode number 107 of Uncut, we're going to be discussing Dak Prescott's situation and whether or not the Bears should take a shot on him. So let's hop right into it. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Uncut episode 107, the channel where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. I would like to say before we hop into this episode about a very intriguing topic in Dak Prescott, do us a favor, like this video and subscribe if you want Bears content every day of the week. Please, we're putting out 2 videos a day in the month of December. We're trying to grind for you guys. You guys give us this incredible platform, and we're going to keep putting out the content. So I am your host, Chris Malpe. To the right of me, I am joined by both of my co-hosts, Parth Shaw and Jaylen McClinton. How's it going, guys?
Just doing pretty good. It's Friday. Haven't had any classes today, so just been working on some homework, I guess.
Yeah, same here. I'm getting ready for finals.
Yeah, I got finals Monday and Tuesday, and I think one later on in the week, but that'll about be it for me. I'm done with actual schooling. Now it's just time to finish off, and talking about finishing off, something that the Bears haven't been too good at recently, especially against Detroit. But today we are here talking about a very interesting quarterback prospect who has been seen as a target for the Bears by ESPN's Dan Orlovsky. He says sources tell him that the Bears are keeping an eye and monitoring on Dak Prescott's situation. Stephen A. Smith also yesterday on First Take said the Bears should try and sign Dak Prescott, that he would be the best quarterback ever to play for the Bears the moment he steps in Halas Hall. So before we get specifically into Dak, I mean, you take a look at the Bears and this offseason, Parth and Jaylen, there's no way to avoid it. The Bears have 2 options, and there's only 2 really main needs they're going to need to address unless Allen Robinson walks, and that's going to be the offensive line as well as the quarterback position. You have the option of going free agency with the offensive linemen, a majority of them, or free agency with the quarterback, and you could take someone like an Andy Dalton, a Cam Newton, a Dak Prescott, and then you take a look at the draft, and if you go quarterback there's options that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks on the channel: Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, amongst many. So, Parth, I want to start with you. Would you rather the Bears pick up a quarterback this offseason through free agency or where they are right now in the draft?
I'd honestly go with the draft. I think it's time for the Bears to get like a franchise quarterback through draft, develop one. I think we can do that. It's possible. Quarterbacks, and it's been proven. Look at Josh Allen. He's been playing well. Patrick Mahomes developed real quick. Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of guys doing well. Kyler Murray. And I think the Bears could easily find one in this talented draft class. There's a lot of talented quarterbacks. It's cheaper to do that as well. Signing someone like Dak Prescott's really, really expensive. Something the Bears maybe don't have cap room for, and they're going to have to make space for that, which is going to be hard. So I'd rather just get a cheap quarterback that's a rookie with high upside, and hopefully it pans out, because honestly, winning a championship is a lot easier when your quarterback's in a rookie deal.
Yeah, I got to go ahead and agree with you. Dak would be expensive, even though he is only 27, but also the upside of signing someone through free agency is they already have the experience, and before getting injured this year, Dak Prescott was easily on pace for a breakout season, and maybe would be in the MVP talk right now if it weren't for him going down. So, Jaylen, we talked a little bit before we hopped on this call, and I know what you're going to answer personally, but if you were the Bears, would you rather pursue a quarterback through free agency or through the 2021 draft?
I'm going to the draft, like Parth said. Paying somebody like a Dak Prescott, even try to pry him away from the Cowboys if they do try to re-sign him, is going to take a lot of money. Way more money than we currently have right now. And I know like some of our viewers are probably going to disagree with this, but the quarterback is not the main reason why the team is not successful right now. It's the offensive line. Right now the offensive line has played very solid over the last couple of weeks, and the offense has been able to put up points. And maybe because Mitchell's ability to run out the pocket, but when Nick Foles was back there, yeah, we beat a couple good teams like the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Panthers. but he was a statue in the pocket. When the line broke down, Nick Foles just took a sack. He didn't even try to throw the ball away. Something that Mitchell struggled with last season because of the offensive line was way worse than it is now. But like I said, the offensive line is getting better, and we're able to put up points. So I feel like that we should possibly look in the draft. And then use the cap space that we might have next season to bring in some offensive linemen for our quarterback, whoever that may be. Rather it's like a Zach Wilson or maybe even a Kyle Trask, depending on depending on where we're at in the draft, or if we win a couple more games, or if we lose out for the rest of the season. But I think we need to try to get a good offensive line before we try to spend all this money and bring in a quarterback like Dak, who one already had a bad injury because he was rushed out the pocket due to the Cowboys having a poor offensive line play when he was playing.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I mean, obviously, this video today is about if the Bears do look in free agency about Dak Prescott, but I think ideally I'd probably try and spend some money on the offensive line in free agency, grab a quarterback in the draft, maybe start off with Nick Foles for a little bit next year. I've said it in the past, kind of like the Miami Dolphins situation with Tagovailoa as well as Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Nick Foles is no Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's not going to win games like Fitzpatrick and Fitzmagic has done in the past. But I think that's my ideal situation, and you can also probably, depending on what happens with Allen Robinson, pick up another offensive lineman, preferably an offensive tackle, in the first 3 rounds. But, you take a look at the Bears right now. They do have a lot of contracts that they can move on from. Bobby Massey, Charles Leno, Jimmy Graham, and Buster Skrine highlight the main 4 that are going to save the Bears a lot of cap because they're only coming into 2021 with about $5 million, which wouldn't get them Dak Prescott, considering he's asking for over $40 million a year. And then you also look at Keem Hicks and Kyle Fuller. You would assume one of them might be moved on from this offseason or definitely restructure their contracts to be able to save some money and possibly pick up some draft picks. And you can also restructure the contract of Eddie Jackson as well. So there's going to be some ways that the Bears can look to get some cap space this offseason. So, Parth, I'm going to bring it back around to you right now. Obviously, we've seen Dak Prescott show out in the past. I mean, his 2019 season was great, 4,902 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with a passer rating of 99.7. Mitchell Trubisky currently with an 80, I believe an 88.2, holds the highest passer rating for the Bears throughout a season, and this is obviously much better. And you take a look at this year, he had a great year when it started before he went down with the injury, 450 yards and a touchdown in week 2 against Atlanta, 472, 3 touchdowns against Seattle, and then his big breakout game, 502 passing yards, 4 touchdowns against Cleveland, I believe in week 4. We've seen Dak Prescott show that he is worth an extension. There's a lot of heads down there in Dallas confused why he hasn't gotten paid yet, why Jerry Jones and the organization aren't respecting him. So if he does choose to leave Dallas, do you want the Bears to at least take a look at him?
I'm going to say no. I think the price is too high for someone like Dak Prescott. I mean, he has put up numbers, I can't lie, but a lot of that has been garbage time stats. And he does have a lot of talent around him in Dallas. I don't think he gets that same talent here in Chicago. He gets the top 5 running back in Ezekiel Elliott. He's got, Michael Gallup, who was a really good receiver as a wide receiver too, and then they added CeeDee Lamb this year, and they still have Amari Cooper. And the tight end situation with Blake Jarvin was pretty good too. So I think he had a lot of talent around him there in Dallas. I don't think the Bears have the same talent, even offensive line-wise. Dallas had one of the best offensive lines for the longest time, so I think he'd struggle here in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think there's one situation where he would work out in Chicago, and I'll explain it right now, and this is the only reason I'd like to bring him in. You get a new GM in who works out something with Allen Robinson to either actually make an extension work or to play on the franchise tag for a year. I think Allen Robinson staying is going to be huge. You talked about his weapons down in Dallas with Lamb, with Gallup, and obviously Amari Cooper. And the Bears would need that number 1 target if they tried to bring in Dak Prescott, and I don't think they could immediately get someone out of the draft that would be able to replace what Allen Robinson does. I think he's a top 10 wide receiver in the league. So you'd have to get Robinson to say. Number 2, you sign Prescott. Obviously, that costs a lot. You would have to drop all of those guys I mentioned earlier and probably trade either Fuller or Hicks, which would be a tough blow. But Ryan Pace currently is attributing $117 million, 65% of the cap space to this defense. We're the only team in the NFL that is doing that right now. So we'd have to move on from one of those big pieces on defense. And then I think you'd have to try and get, obviously Leno and Matthew would be gone. You'd have to try and cut at least one of those guys and move on. And I think you have to focus heavily on the draft. If you can keep Robinson in town and also get Dak Prescott, you basically put all your picks into the offensive line and maybe an interior defensive lineman if Hakeem Hicks is gone. And we've seen Bilal Nichols play well too, but I think the only situation in which I'd feel comfortable with Dak in Chicago is if you get Allen Robinson to stay, you clear up the cap space to be able to sign Dak, and you focus the rest of your offseason 90% on signing offensive linemen, more specifically offensive tackles, because I am pretty confident about how the Bears' interior offensive line has played with Mustafa, Whitehair, and James Daniels. I've said it in the past, but you have to set Dak up with weapons. I do think if he came to Chicago, he would be, as Stephen A. Smith said, I think he'd, in my lifetime, easily be the best Bears quarterback to walk through the door. I mean, you take a look at the history of Bears quarterbacks, and this is obviously before we were all alive. I mean, Jim McMahon was the last great Bears quarterback you could say, but that entire team was Walter Payton, and McMahon wasn't even anything incredible. So the one thing I do like about Dak is he's a proven winner. He's proven that he can put up numbers if the weapons and the protection are there. And I think if the Bears kind of fomented their entire offseason around him, they could do a pretty decent job at keeping some of those weapons, maybe, and also putting a sturdy enough offensive line around Dak. So that's the only instance in which I would want him, but I do think he could come to Chicago, and we'll talk about it a little later, but I think he could get us back into playoff contention. So Jaylen, obviously, and that was a little bit of a longer rant by me, but if the Bears do look to go free agency with a quarterback, there's going to be some interesting options. Jimmy Garoppolo could be out there depending on what the 49ers do. Cam Newton, obviously the backup in Dallas, Andy Dalton, as well as maybe Dak Prescott, depending on how those Cowboys negotiations go. So if Dak Prescott does hit the free market and the Bears are looking to pick up someone in free agency, do you think they should take a look at him?
I mean, of course, like I said, that's not something I would, necessarily do. But obviously, we're obviously going to be looking for a quarterback this offseason, even if Nick Foles stays, or we even look to re-sign Mitchell Trubisky on like a minimum to come back and be a backup quarterback. We still need to look for, a franchise quarterback, someone that can help us win games, that can be our quarterback for the next, who knows how many years, hopefully more than 4. And with decent quarterback play. So of course I would look at Dak Prescott. Like I said, I just don't think that's the route we need to take. I think we need to build up the offensive line before we try to use all this money on one quarterback.
It's also an interesting conversation how much money Dak would demand, because when his conversations in Dallas broke down, he was getting the money that he wanted, but he wasn't getting the years he wanted. Jerry Jones was offering him long-term extensions that would keep him locked up in Dallas, but it seems like the years was the issue for him. So maybe if we pay him the money he wants for a shorter amount of years, maybe we could get him. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he even leaves Dallas, because I don't think that happens personally. I think they eventually come to an agreement. But before we close this one off, and Dak Prescott's such an interesting topic, because I think he could turn this franchise around once again with the right weapons, with the right offensive line, which might not be palatable for the Bears heading into 2021. But if they do push hard for him, they could try and center the rest of their free agency moves, extending Allen Robinson and their NFL draft strategy around it. So I want to ask you, Parth, if the Bears do sign Dak Prescott, where do you think it puts the Bears in terms of playoff contention and possibly even Super Bowl contention?
I doubt we'd make the Super Bowl, but I think that gives the Bears a good chance to make the playoffs. I think it makes us maybe a consistent 9 to 10 win team. Maybe I really like the Vikings going forward in the NFC North. I think they got something special there.
Yeah, and they are a good young team, but we know what this Bears defense can do. They haven't been able to do it as much as of recently.
It's been a while. See, it's been a while for me to see this. It's been a while since I've seen them play good, that I've kind of lost hope in saying that now. Because coming into this season, I had really high expectations for them, and right now they're playing like a pretty average defense. So
yeah, but I think part of that attributes to when you see the offense underperforming, and you know that they can't do anything. I think that definitely mentally affects the way you play. But I still believe this defense can be above average defense in this league, and it's still a championship caliber defense. So if Dak came to Chicago, I do think he would make us playoff contenders, not Super Bowl contenders by any means. I don't think we can ever say that about the Bears without actually seeing them play in the playoffs. But I do think Dak would make us playoff contenders if the situation played out like I mentioned it. If we could somehow get Allen Robinson back to play on a franchise tag or an extension, fix the offensive line, and was able to get Dak in Chicago, I think he would be embraced in Chicago. I'll say it again. I think when he steps in the building, he will be the best Bears quarterback of all time. And I think he can answer our problems, and hopefully as Jaylen mentioned earlier, the offensive line, which is also a very big problem, can be fixed as well, because whoever the quarterback is in Chicago moving forward is going to need help from a better offensive line. That's not even up for debate. So Jaylen, before we close this one off, if the Bears somehow do get Dak, which a lot of people seem to want at this point, a lot of media seem to want, and there seems like there's slight rumors that there might be some interest there, do you think he makes us playoff contenders?
Definitely. The Cowboys would have been a playoff contender if they had any type of defense this season. Dak was carrying them, putting up all these crazy amount of points, but their defense was giving up the same amount, or obviously more, because they were still losing games when he was starting. So if he had any sort of type of defense, that I'm pretty sure they will be winning the NFC East by like a landslide. They're probably like at 7 wins, I would say.
NFC East.
Did I say least?
You said AFC East.
Oh, well, I mean NFC at least, because that division is terrible. I'm pretty sure we'd be like tied for first with the Giants in the football team if we were in that division. We're playing terrible right now. So I'm pretty sure they would be winning that division if they had any sort of type of defense. Right now our defense isn't playing like the defense we expected. Giving up 34 points to the Lions and then 41 points to the Packers is unacceptable, something that we haven't seen in a very long time, probably before Vic was even here for me. So
since 2016. Yeah,
I definitely feel like we would be playing.
But, I mean, I think you can agree with me that this defense can still get back to playing at a high level.
Yeah.
We may not see Hicks next year. We've seen good play from Bilal Nichols, and I think Buster Screen leaving town, the only other piece on that defense that I mentioned, is probably a good thing.
Yeah, but like I said, we would have to find some way to get a decent amount of cap room to bring him in. If we want Dak, we can't have Khalil Mack, who's making like 20-something million, and Dak, who wants 40-something million.
And he's been someone in the past who I believe has turned some of his actual salary into a signing bonus.
I'm not pretty sure we're going to do that this year again to try to create cap and bring players in to help us win. But with Max on the team, I guess I'm happy that we bring somebody in like a Dak who wants all this money that he definitely deserves.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting conversation, because you look at some contracts recently signed. You could probably do something with Eddie Goldman's contract. You could definitely do something with Eddie Jackson's contract that you just signed last offseason, and Kyle Fuller as well as Akeem Hicks. You could either move on from one of them or make it a very team-friendly contract so that they play and hopefully can get Dak Prescott in town. But it should be interesting moving forward whether or not he gets a deal with the Cowboys done, and definitely interesting to see where he goes next year if he isn't with the Cowboys, because whether or not he ends up in Chicago, it's definitely going to affect the Bears, because there could be a team that signs him that therefore doesn't need to draft a quarterback, leaving someone for the Bears. It's all a system of moving parts here, so we'll see what happens. But thank you guys so much for listening in to episode number 107 of Uncut. Dak Prescott's situation should be interesting moving forward, and we shall see if he ends up with the Bears. That would be quite the feat to see. If you guys want more content from us, head over to our website, beareddown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs every day of the week to get you guys ready for the Week 14 matchup with the Houston Texans. Also, we're going to start our off-season content on there. And I know, considering that you guys have enjoyed our off-season videos, you will probably enjoy the off-season content on our website. So beardown.com, if you have a chance to check it out, be sure to head over there. If you would like to find us on social media, we're announcing a Christmas giveaway very soon. We want to give back to you guys as much as possible. It's going to be free to enter. So please go follow our Instagram and our Twitter at Beared Down to be able to find out how to enter. We're going to be announcing that very soon. And finally, I feel like I've been rambling on for a while here. You could find our social media down in the description, Instagram and Twitter. We're very active on both platforms, and it's a great way to interact with us and possibly help us decide what to record on in the future. So, Parshaw, Jaylen McClinton, the offseason is coming very soon, and Dak Prescott is definitely going to be one of the marquee names with a big decision to come for him soon. And I wouldn't blame him for wanting out of Dallas at this point, but any last words before we close this one off?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how the Bears, go along with this QB situation. It's definitely a need on this team, so I'm excited to see who's the starting quarterback in 2021.
I'm not even worried about that. Bulls basketball in 4 hours.
All right.
True.
Yeah, the Bulls tonight, but thank you guys so much again for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to be your host. My name is Chris Malpe. If you made it this far, do us a favor, smash a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel for Bears content every day of the week. And Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.